It's a full moon. Transform into a scary beast. Got some claws and hairy feet. A pair of fangs I made to feast. It's a full moon. Yeah. Don't you try to run from me. You cannot keep up with me. My super strength and super speed. It's a full moon.
Hello and welcome to the Body Bag Podcast. I'm Chris Thomas, and with me is David Horning, and we are two podcasters who came together. I went to listen to our old intro from our very first thing, and it wasn't as bad as that. It wasn't as bad as that. Welcome everybody to the Body Bag Podcast.
Close. Yeah,
very much our first time, but. What's good, everybody? Welcome to Body Bag Podcast. I'm Chris Thomas, and with me, as always, Broke Writer Dave.
How are we doing, everybody?
Has it been over 2 years already?
Yeah, we're just about there. Yeah,
or about the 2-year mark. I'd like to say that we've come a long way.
Oh, I feel like we've definitely a lot further along than I thought we would be.
Much time has passed since I was that clean-shaven child of 29 years old.
Right.
And, you know, I go back and I listen to it like, it's amazing how we've gotten 10,000 downloads, let alone 5.
Right.
You know, in a market that is flooded with podcasters, it means a lot that a good amount of people have chosen to kind of stick around and listen to us.
Yeah, really means a lot to us that you guys are sticking with us.
So... because I think we even started sometime in the summer.
I want to say it was August 16th of 2021.
And Dave had the fantastic idea of, well, you know what? Why don't we go back and review some of the stuff that we did in season 1? Season 1 had a lot of good movies, but maybe not at our top tier in reviewing.
Yeah, we were still finding our legs as a podcast, still figuring things out.
I didn't even know who this man was.
No, I think we recorded that first episode about a week after meeting each other, so...
And it was I don't know if it was before or after that point where I was thinking to myself, wait a second, I just agreed to do a podcast with this dude. I don't even know how old this dude is. I could be talking to a 15 or 16-year-old, and we're
yeah.
I could be getting in real trouble. I don't know how old this dude is. And then luckily he's
Chris Hansen could show up at any time.
Chris Hansen just shows so I hear we're planning on meeting a 15-year-old boy to discuss movies. Is that correct? Why don't you take a seat right here?
Right.
And my heart alleviated when you said you were my age. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. But just a few months apart.
But so yeah, Fear Street, our very, very first, broke our cherry first movie.
Yes.
Well, series of movies.
Well, it's a trilogy, yeah.
It's a very good trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
And luckily for this, I don't know if we tiptoed around spoilers or anything like that. But the good thing about re-reviewing it this time is that enough time has passed where it's like, well, if you haven't seen it by now, that's your fault.
Yeah, and we probably did spoil it in the first one anyway, so.
And, it's free on Netflix, so.
Yeah. Check it out. It's really good.
But we'll go into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we had homework.
Yes, we did.
Now, I've been 0 for 2 when it comes to recommending movies to Dave. I've recommended Dave a Australian found footage mockumentary, and I have recommended to him a old school slasher. Now, if he doesn't like this one, I don't know what to tell you about this man, folks. I don't know what to do with him. But I'm gonna have him actually go first on this one, go ahead, Dave. What was your homework?
Tatsui, the Iron Man.
Tetsuo, the Iron Man.
Tetsuo, yeah.
All right, so... Yeah, go ahead.
Body horror movie from 1988 from Japan.
Yep, Japanese cyberpunk body horror, I believe, is what it's listed as on...
Yeah, kind of an erotica. Had a lot of phallus statements.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this movie didn't do it for me.
Dude, I don't know what to do with this man, people. I've given him 3 completely different types of horror movies, vastly different from one another. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with you.
I'm big on Japanese movies, but this one...
That's why that's exactly why I recommend it to you. I have to be in the mood for body horror, but I like Japanese movies, so that's in my wheelhouse. I'm like, good, safe bet. But
I think the body horror in this one was just a little much.
Gratuitous?
Yeah, and like the sounds were.
That's
just
why I
like
liked
the
it.
score of this movie was.
I like that.
Oh, like she was like eating like a piece of a hot dog, and they made it sound like she was chewing metal. I'm like,
Yeah, it's supposed to make
this
you
is
uncomfortable.
I was incredibly uncomfortable the entire movie.
It's supposed. I believe I said it was like a fever dream that grabs you by the throat and then replaces it with an exhaust pipe, I think is what my review said.
That accurately describes it. Yeah, because like the pace of this movie was weird.
You want to tell people what it's about first off?
So, starts off with this guy gonna stick like a metal rod in his leg, and he cuts open. Maggots are coming out and everything. Freaks him out. He goes running out to the street, gets hit by a car, and driving the car was our, I guess, protagonist of this movie.
I don't know. I guess you would call them the protagonist, the guy of the movie.
He's the main character of the movie. And from this incident, he slowly starts becoming a machine. It's very much like a metal fetish type thing.
The main antagonist is called the metal fetishist.
Yeah.
And it is very much a fever dream type movie where the guy is slowly starting to kind of turn into metal.
Yeah, slowly becoming more machine than man.
Like scrap grungy looking metal too.
Yeah.
From what I understand, well, I'll tell you why I liked it is the practical effects first and foremost.
Yeah, I figure you're big. You're way more bigger on like stop motion type effects than I am.
Stop motion and practical effects, and from what I heard, if you look at it, the guy who's doing all of these effects, you can tell that there's some passion in it because there's a lot of detail in what he is putting into, like how the guy is slowly turning metal and how. And I said kudos to the actors for doing a lot of these weird scenes.
Yeah, and even though this movie came out in 1988, it's all in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, I was like,
stylistically, I thought that was a good choice because there was a sequel to it that it was in color, and I thought there was something lost when it went to color. In all honesty,
maybe, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a big fan of like movies choosing a black white.
All right, well,
it very rarely works for me, but yeah.
All right, well,
yeah,
that's essentially what the plot of the movie is. So why don't you go ahead and break it down real quick? Like, give it your thing.
Yeah, and as he's become like more machine, it's become more of a straw, and at one point has a drill for a penis.
Mm-hmm. See, Dave.
Yeah, his girlfriend then tries to kill him, doesn't, then she kills herself because she's worried about what she'll become.
You see, Dave, you just don't understand the deep metaphors that this movie has.
I get the metaphors. Come on now.
You don't understand. They're saying we're slaves to technology. You just don't get it, man.
I get it. It just didn't hit for me. And then he goes in to fight the guy who, from the beginning, who got hit by a car, and they merge into a giant penis.
A giant metallic penis that goes around and turns everything into metal.
Yeah.
I mean, you asked for last time you said that Lake Mungo was too boring. So I thought, all right, well, let me go the complete opposite and give you one that just like doesn't stop.
It does not stop. I mean, it's only an hour and 7 minutes long, so it doesn't have time to be boring. So
I don't know what to do, man. These are 3 completely different types of movies, and you just shat on all 3.
I'm really trying not to, but watching, I was like, oh, no.
Meanwhile, I was watching, I was like, oh man, this is great. I love this. I was watching it on a rainy day too, so it was storming outside. I was like, hell yeah, this is great. I mean, it combines my like stop motion and I like body horror.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah. Go ahead and break it down and give it your score.
All right, so I mean, technicals, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, he does a really good job.
Oh, you don't have to. Just be honest. Tell me how you feel.
No, like the technicals were good. I mean, I'd probably give it 7.5. No, I'm gonna go with 7.
Okay.
For putting it in black and white.
That's fine.
Story, probably a 4.
Okay.
And then enjoyment, I'd probably put it at a 4.
Yeah, that bad, huh?
I mean, it's not bad. It's not like a 1 or a 2, but it's not something I'm ever going to go out of my way to rewatch.
My goal by the end of this season is to try to hone in on your taste and figure out, all right, what would be a good... I know what
Yeah,
apparently...
evidently we're finding... I have weird taste in movies, I guess.
I don't know about weird, but I mean, I'm trying to think. I gave you an 80s slasher, a mockumentary from Australia, and now a cyberpunk horror, body horror, and it's like, nope. I'm like, okay, all right.
And that's so weird because, like, I love 80s slashers, and I do enjoy mockumentary style movies, and genuinely love most of the Japanese horror movies I've watched.
And I guess I just happen to keep finding the ones that you are the exception.
Yeah, the ones I'm not gonna like. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean, so a total is 15 out of 30. So.
Well, this is like also. We joke like in a lot of these reviews saying like, oh, we have completely different taste in movies when we made our list, and then we end up having like the same like. When we did our top 10s, we joke and say, oh, we have such different tastes, but a couple of times we've had the same like number 3s or same number 5s. This is the actual way we're figuring out, wow, we really do have some different tastes here.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that leads into my homework.
Yeah.
30 Miles from Nowhere. Now, I think that you gave me this one because I gave you 2 that you didn't like.
Did you not like it?
This movie irritated me.
I genuinely enjoyed that movie.
I ought to make...
But I've yet to find anybody else who's seen it. That's why I made you watch it.
I ought to make you rewatch and re-review a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot for making me watch this movie. All right, well, first off, 30 Miles from Nowhere, a group of friends, they had a friend who recently died, and they're all getting together to go to his funeral, pay their respects, and they go out to this, I'm hesitant to call it a cabin, it's a giant triangle out in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
And they're like old college buddies, and, you know, as it goes, a little bit of drinking, a little bit of reminiscing, and then it turns into a horror, like weird stuff is happening. Yeah. Now, I hated these people. These people irritated me. And now I know that a group of friends out in the middle of the woods is like a staple of a lot of horror movies. But good God, like none of these people, maybe aside from one guy named Paul, but none of these people were likable. All of these people... Like, and the thing is, I knew within 5 minutes that these people were going to be like, oh, this is going to just be a bunch of them shit-talking each other and being passive-aggressive with each other and probably cheating on their girlfriends and husbands with each other. And of course, and it was exactly that. Yeah. It was exactly that. I was, you know, you could do cabin in the woods type movies and stuff like that, but man, I didn't like anybody in this. And... all right, so as the movie goes along, you find out that like the guy supposedly shot himself and killed himself, their friend who was a scientist, and
I think a psychologist.
Yeah. They keep calling him a scientist. He left behind a grieving, was it his wife?
Yeah.
His wife, who was the one who invited them all, and then but a couple of them keeps like seeing who they think is the guy. His name is Max, the guy who supposedly killed himself, and spoiler alert, at the end, it was all like a big experiment in fear.
Yeah.
The guy is actually alive, and there's a guy who's a pacifist, part of the group, doesn't like violence, and he's also, I think, a psychologist as well.
Yeah.
And he gets shot at one point in the leg, I think. Doesn't he get shot in the leg?
I believe so, yeah.
He gets shot in the leg. Everybody else gets tied up and held at gunpoint, and then he shows up, he limps out of the woods, shows up and kills the... woman who like was, I guess his wife was in on it. It turned out to be like an experiment that Max was doing. Oh, this movie.
And they said they all signed release forms when they signed the.
It was the guest. It was the They signed a guest book at the very beginning, which turned out to be which I don't think that's legally binding because all they did was just show you signed this, and it was just a blank sheet of paper with their names on it. And it's like, you signed a waiver. It's like, there's nothing on here. What are you talking about? It's just our names. Yeah, we signed. All you have is we signed a piece of paper. Like when the police show up at the very end and arrest Paul, the guy who shot the woman, and said, oh yeah, he went crazy and killed. But oh, he went crazy, did he? Is that why he has a bullet in his leg? Like the ending made no sense. absolutely zero sense. Like, the police say, "Oh, you signed this waiver form," and it was just a blank sheet of paper with their names on it. It's like, that doesn't prove shit. That just proves that we have names on a piece of paper. And then he's hauled off to jail and said, "Oh yeah." It's like, oh, this movie.
Yeah, I don't think it would have held up in court, but yeah.
This movie irritated me. And nobody's jumping to the dude's defense. Like, they see him going away, getting hauled up. Nobody's like, "Yo, look, like, the guy he got shot at. Look at his leg. The woman is, like, tied us up and brought us, like, in here and was threatening to kill us." Like, police are just quick to, again, useless police officers, which is another unfortunate staple in horror movies. Yeah. Just useless police officers, like, "Oh, he's a well-respected psychologist. He would never do something like this." And this movie just irritated me.
Maybe I just watched it on a good day.
Halfway through the movie, I was like, "This is obvious." Dave obviously gave me this on purpose because I gave him 2 movies he didn't like. He obviously gave me this because, like, kudos. I actually was giving you props, like, good on you, Dave. When
I watched it like a year ago, and I actually enjoyed the movie.
I was sitting here like, I appreciate the pettiness, Dave. I appreciate the pettiness of giving me a bad movie because I gave you 2 ones. But
did not mean to be petty. I just.
Oh man! So yeah, that was one of the things I wrote down. I was like, I ought to make you rewatch the rebooted Nightmare on Elm Street and review it for next time for giving me this movie to watch. Technicals.
Yeah. Let's get to the scoring.
Let's get to the score. I'll give you my enjoyment already. It was a 3. I didn't like it. It was annoying. Technicals. It was competently shot, so I will give it a 7. It was competently shot, and there was a scene that I thought it was a shower scene where the woman was, I think this movie is rated 16 plus or something like that. Yeah. So there's no real gratuitous nudity, no real violence. I classify it more as a thriller. I would think. She's in the shower and she's like showering with like the shower head thing, and then red stuff, I guess blood, quote unquote, was coming out, and then washes away. But it was only for a little bit. It only happened for a couple seconds, enough to kind of notice, and then it washed away, and it went unnoticed by the person. I liked that. I thought that was a good shot because I was like, all right, cool. It was just a creepy little thing for the audience, so I liked that. But then they ruined it by like having the guy show up. I forget the guy's name, but it was like their. I don't remember anybody's name, but if you're wondering who it is, it was the only black man in the movie. Came in and then started trying to started making out with the woman in there. And so I was like, I don't know what it is with people who like between that or like soul survivors is like, your girl is in the next room.
Yeah.
Like your boy is in the next room. Like, why would you risk doing this? Like
people are choosing some bad friends.
Yeah, these are not good people, except for maybe Paul. Paul was the only decent person in the movie. Yeah, because he was the pacifist who was going around. He was basically saying, "I'll do this for everyone." He wasn't being pompous about it either. He was just, which I knew in the end when I saw how good of a dude this guy was. I was like, this ain't gonna end well for this dude. The nice guys in movies like this always get the short end of the stick. And so technicals, I'll say 6.5.
Okay.
And story, I don't know. A story's a 4 for me too.
All right.
No, because it was. I mean, there was no real twist because the second that you see this woman, the one who got them all together, you're like, all right. Because my second note was, all right, how long until this woman starts killing people or doing something? I was like, this grieving quote unquote widow is obviously a crazy person. So so the big twist at the end is no real big twist at the end. Hey, if you like it, good on you. I enjoyed it, yeah. That's kind of how I imagine that's how you feel when I was having you watch Tetsuo. You're like, oh, if you like it, man.
Yeah, more power to you.
All right. So let's give each other homework. I'm gonna try to give you some. All right, I failed to excite you. I failed to pique your interest with mockumentary, and I failed to tickle your nostalgia bone with 80s horror. So how about I try to make you laugh?
All right.
All right. So I got 2 movies. I don't know if you've seen both of them or either of them. If you have, then I'm gonna go in a different direction. Have you seen The Burbs?
The Burbs?
The Burbs, Burbs,
No, I don't think I have.
with Tom Hanks.
No.
All right, that one's kind of a. I compared Summer of '84 to a little bit of The Burbs, and that something's weird going on with the neighbor next door kind of movie. I don't know if this is considered horror. I'd say it's a thriller comedy. So I'm gonna give you The Burbs.
Okay.
That one's, I'd say, more on the comedic side, but I gotta give you something. I gotta have a win once. So let's see. Let's see if you like that.
All right. I'm gonna give you a cult classic. I'm pretty sure you haven't seen.
All right.
Give you Ginger Snaps.
That has been on my list.
Yeah.
That has been on my list of movies.
I think you'll enjoy it because I think it's a pretty good movie. So
I know a little bit of what it's about.
yeah.
I know the main character's named Ginger, right?
Yeah.
And she snaps. And I know I never knew. Like, I think this year, sometimes you just pick up stuff just because when you hear people talk about movies, you kind of get a little bit spoiled, but I don't know enough of it to get spoiled, but I know a little bit of the basic gist, but it's been on my list.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. It's one that I've been meaning to watch.
Yeah.
Is that on Shudder?
I believe so.
Okay. I don't know where The Burbs is on, but find it. I'd like that movie. So.
Yeah.
All right, man, that's disappointing. we both just gave. This was very much the math homework of this. It's like I tried to give you a little bit of social studies or a little bit of science.
Yeah.
We both ended up just getting math homework.
Yeah. It happens.
All right, so Ginger Snaps and The Burbs next time. But to a movie that we both genuinely like, or series of movies we genuinely like, Fear Street. Oh, and that made it on my list when I went on Insta, when I said, what was the better throwback? Summer of '84 or 1978 from the Fear Street Trilogy? Had people split.
Movies that take place in between like the 70s and 90s is like...
It's a great period.
It is, yeah.
And I will say in terms of enjoyment, it went 3-2-1 for me. I enjoyed 1994 the most, and then 78, and then 1666.
Well, it'd be 1, 2, 3 then.
Yeah, well, yeah, 1, 2, 3. In terms of my enjoyment, it goes 1, 2, 3. So in the order that they come in.
Yeah, I'm right there.
I think it's also just because I'm a child of the 90s. I think that they captured each kind of like time period and what that, like, you figure 90s had a lot of 90s was school horror, like stuff that took place in school and it involved teenagers. 70s, you had summer camp, which had a lot of like gratuitous sex for out of nowhere, which it had in that, drug use, smoking and stuff like that. And then 1666, which is very much like fear of the unknown and fear of people who are different than you kind of stuff.
Yeah. And like for me, like I'd say 94 is on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a little bit of a gap, and then probably it's
not by much.
No, I'd probably go 74 and 66. They're like right there neck and neck for second and third.
And it also benefited from actually having teenagers who are likable. I've been saying that I preferred the main character's friend, which you're gonna have to be the computer guy and let me know the names off the top of your head.
Okay, so. In 1994, you have Dina, who's the main character.
Yes.
Sam, who is their ex-girlfriend.
Yes.
And then you got her friends Simon and Kate.
The best part of 94, in my opinion. Them and her little brother.
What is his name?
Flores, I think, is his last name, the actor's name.
Yeah, the actor's Benjamin Flores.
Yeah.
I don't know why I want to say Corey, but I know that's not right.
But those
Josh. His name's Josh.
But those three were definitely the best part of 94 for me.
Yeah, I love slasher movies,
and
I know why I like this one so much more than the other ones.
Why is that?
Because these characters are not like your usual one-dimensional kid fodder characters.
Yeah.
Like, you actually feel something when, they die.
And I will say, like, a lot of movies nowadays also try to slip in a little bit of I'm trying to hesitate of using any word that like wokeness, because I just don't like that word, but I'm trying to think of a better word for it.
Like,
because
inclusion, yes.
Of,
the community,
because our main protagonist is a gay character, but they don't flat out say, because you assume because her ex is named Sam, so initially you would think to yourself, just because we're brought up, people raised just to think in gender norms,
they don't make the mistake that a lot of movies make nowadays. When you have a gay character, they make their sexuality their personality.
Yes,
and they don't do this with Sam and Dino. They actually make them real people.
And then when you find out that Sam is a female, they don't linger on it. It's just, this is what it is, and we move on.
Yeah.
It's just, which I think is what you need to do in movies like this. When you have something like this, I heard the same kind of thing for Across the Spider-Verse, which has a lot of stuff like that. They don't make a big deal of it. It's just, it is what it is, and we move on.
Sam and Dina they're more like the gay people that you actually know. Like the gay friends that I have are closer like Sam and Dina than what you typically get in Hollywood movies. But
I think now, I don't think that our main character is bad. I say that the side characters are way more interesting, but I think that's also a good thing. You like to have interesting side characters. They make
Sam and Dina. It's a good story to follow. It's Kate and Simon kind of steal the show because they have, I don't want to say a screen presence, but it's just...
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to put it. They just have a good on-screen presence of just likability. Yeah. They're the drug dealers of the high school. They're the Jay and Silent Bob of the high school. And
she carries the drugs around school with absolute confidence.
Yeah, she's confident, and her friend, Simon, did you say his name was?
Simon, yeah.
Simon.
He's kind of like your typical, like, goofball, doesn't really take much seriously, just kind of living life type of guy.
Yeah, he's just here for it, basically. Yeah.
He's here for a good time.
He's here for a good time, and he probably makes straight C's in school. Yeah. He probably skates by in school, but everybody, like, he doesn't get picked on because everybody goes to him for drugs. Everybody goes to him for like weed or probably for like pills or something like that.
And he just seems like a really likable guy.
And then you have Flores. Sorry, was his name Carl? Josh, rather.
Yeah, Josh.
And you have Josh. He spends his time in chat rooms back when chat rooms were a big thing. Like, just getting started in the 90s.
Yeah.
And he's very, like, and none of them are dumb. None of these, they're all high schoolers, but they're not dumb either.
But he's very much your conspiracy theorist type person.
Which you always, I mean, you always have to have one in every group.
Yeah. He's very much into the lore of the town curse of Sarah Fear, going back and looking at all these murders. So he's kind of like our guide in the movie. He's the guy who is dumping the story onto us. Like, well, this happened, and then 20 years ago this happened, and then this happened.
We learned the lore through him.
Yeah.
And so... And yeah, I think just that era. I mean, it's called 1994, but other than a couple of things, which if you watch a lot of 90s stuff, it feels very much 90s. But other than like the chat room thing and one or two other things, it could have taken place any time, really. But it does have that feel of the 90s.
Yeah, they in 94 and 78, they do a really good job with the soundtracks of these movies. You can tell they carefully picked out each song. So.
Yes, a lot of movies that are throwback movies make the mistake of going like, all right, this takes place in the 90s or this takes place in the 70s or something like that. We have to have nothing. We have to make sure that all of our songs are in your face to make sure that you know it's the 70s or the 90s or whatever like that. Didn't feel that way with this. It was
No, they didn't do like the typical 90s songs. They went with like a little bit more deep cuts with the 90s music.
Oh, I forgot. Because was it Creep that, because they transitioned from one song to another when she was on the bus and then put her headphones on.
I think Creep is one of the songs, and then.
But I don't know. Yeah, it was like mainstream music, but it didn't feel like it was beat over the head with it. Like you said, it wasn't like you didn't have a lot of. You didn't hear Backstreet Boys or Blink-182 or like.
Well, Blink-182 would have been 2000s, but.
Oh well, yeah, probably.
A lot of grunge music.
Which fits the period.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I tend to blend the early 2000s and the 90s.
Yeah, same here.
I was trying to think of 98 Degrees, actually. I was trying to say Backstreet Boys and that other band. But let's move on into the 70s.
So this is your typical 70s camp movie. And once again, it's elevated because the characters, like your main characters like Ziggy and Cindy Berman, you actually care about them. You get reintroduced to Sheriff Nick Good, who was in the first movie, but now you see him as a teenager.
Yes, and I will say that, and it's nothing against the movie, because, you know, when they introduce the beginning of this movie and everything like that, and we're in the 70s, and you get introduced to the bullies and everything like that. Like, I usually hate when you get, like, the bullies just thrown in there, but at the same time, I'm like, that was a staple of a lot of, like, you know, 70s, and especially...
That's a 70s staple, yeah.
That is a 70s camp staple of, you gotta have, like, your bullies who are just, you know, picking on the people for no reason. Like, it's just...
I think they use the bullies in this movie in a good way to progress the story.
Yeah, I'm saying...
Get your main characters where they need to be at certain times. That makes sense.
And but like I said, even like the gratuitous sex with the camp counselors and stuff like that doesn't really add anything. But that was again a staple of 70s camp
movie,
of haunted camp movies. It's like just gratuitous sex and gratuitous violence and gratuitous drug use. That is, you know, Camp Crystal Lake. You know what I mean? Pretty much.
Basically, yeah.
So I'm not saying that as a good or bad thing. I'm just saying it's a good way that they captured the essence of those movies that would come out during that time.
This movie is basically a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah. I
mean, the killer even ends up with a sack over his head.
It knows what it's doing. It's paying homages. It's paying its homage.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason it is a little bit lower for me than 1994, but not by much, is just because 90s was my time period.
Yeah.
You know, 80, you know, I wasn't alive during the 70s, so, you know, I appreciate the movies that came out then, but it's the nostalgia for me. So that's the only reason why, you know, 94 is a little bit above.
What was really missing was an homage to Madman Marks. We needed a
hot tub
3-minute hot tub scene. Of them just staring into each other's eyes.
You know, when I was watching it for a second time, I was like, you know, this is great and everything, and I love the homages and everything like that, but I need a jacuzzi scene. Yeah. I need a hot tub scene of two camp counselors staring at each other for 5 minutes while...
twirling around the hot tub for an entire song.
While an entire song plays in the background. I mean, if it had that at least, then this would have been... full top marks,
full tens, yeah,
full tens,
all movies, yeah,
perfect. Because I mean, if you're going to emulate the essence of a movie, you don't go any better than Madman Marks.
No,
I can't wait till we
70s slashers.
I can't wait till we re-review that one. That was. When we re-review that movie and it gets to that scene, like, oh, here we go. Like, this is, I've been waiting for the past, 20 minutes just to get to this scene.
Yeah, let's watch you guys twirl around the hot tub for the next 5 minutes, and I'm just awkwardly there.
But right before they do that hot tub scene, you need to get a close-up of that dude's ass as he gets into the hot tub, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's how it went.
That's exactly how it went.
A close-up of the dude's ass as he's walking into the hot tub, and then 3 minutes of just... I need to download whatever song that was, and that needs to be our new intro song. Whatever song was playing during that Madman Marks. And 1978 also, it doesn't just serve as a good standalone, but it progresses the story of 1994.
Yeah, because this movie starts off with they take Sam after she freaks out at the end of 94.
Yes.
To see Berman's house, who was the only survivor from the
massacre.
78 massacre. And they take her to her house. And the C. Berman of the future is played by Gillian Jacobs from Community.
I never really watched Community, so I don't know.
Really?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I mean, I've watched a lot of other series. I just can't.
Yeah, if you're a sitcom fan, it's pretty solid, yeah. I
end up getting into series years after they're popular. So at some point... I'll probably start Game of Thrones, I'm sure. But
yeah, Community was always one of those when I needed to lighten the mood. I'll throw on Community for a little bit, but yeah, she's basically is telling them the story of 78, and that's when we get to Camp Nightwing.
Camp Nightwing. That just sounds so 70s. Camp Nightwing.
I would love to go to Camp Nightwing. And
so our main, well, I was gonna say if you haven't seen it, but we're just way into spoilers anyway. Yes, we progressed the story of what was going on at the end of 94. And I will say at the very end of 78, it has a legitimate twist. The person who you think is telling the story is the other sister.
Yeah. So Siggy Berman was the one who survived, and she started going by C. Berman and kind of honor her sister who sacrificed herself to try to save her at the end of 78.
Because you're sitting here watching 78 and going like, well, obviously this girl, we know she lives. And then you see her get killed and you're like, wait a second, who's telling the story?
Yeah, and then you realize, oh, well, Nick Good promised that he'd save her and wouldn't let her die. Once when you get to the third movie, you realize, oh, that's gross, dude.
Which leads us into 1666.
Yeah, I'll harp back on it when we get there, but...
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So, basically, during 94, they find Sarah Fear's grave, her body.
Yes.
And that kind of kicks off the events. And at the end of 78, they had her hand, because to break the curse, you gotta connect the hand with the body. Mm-hmm. And they went to where they thought the body was buried. Wasn't there, so the hand got buried back there.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can't break the curse because no one knows where the body is. And they're like, well, if the hand's still by the tree, we know where the body's at. So Dina goes and takes the hand, puts it with the body, and enters a trance, which takes her back to 1666, where she inhabits the body of Sarah Fear.
Yes, and then we get the true backstory of what was going on back that makes the town cursed in the first place. Now I sit here, I was trying to wonder, is there a particular reason? Well, I'm interested to hear your answer, because you said that it goes 1, 2, 3 for you. What do you think the third one is either lacking or whatever to make it number 3 on the list?
I think it's just the period piece.
It really is. For me, it is the timepiece period. I don't really watch a lot of ye old era movies.
Yeah, and I'm happy that they use all the same actors and actresses.
That was cool.
But that had to be rough on them to try to talk with the accents.
Oh yeah.
Some of them could do it, some couldn't. It's just oh, yeah.
That just feels exhausting. I see
you're trying, that's rough that you got put in this position, but yeah.
Yeah, it's look, if I was the person, if I was the director, I'd have been like, look, I'm not gonna make you do this. We know it's supposed to be 1666. If you try to do it with a bad accent, it's just going to draw attention to it. Yeah. So just talk normally, I guess. Nobody's going to care really. And yeah, I don't tend to watch a lot of movies that take place like movies like The Village, which we find out, spoiler, big twist. It's it's modern day, but. Old towns are still speaking ye old English. Oh, Bartholomew, it is thee. I don't
once again, it's kind of, I have weird taste, so it's either hit or miss with me. I enjoyed The Witch, but
I'm sure that
I enjoyed this, so
I'm sure there's some few exceptions to the rule, but nothing against it. It's just not.
I just usually don't go out of my way to see these type of movies.
But yes, so we figure out the what was kind of just a whatever thing in 1994 is now the prevalent thing of these two are gay. Character Sarah Fear and her lover.
It was the preacher's daughter.
And you have some creepy pervert who's jealous that he can't get with either one of them. Yeah. So he rats. So he says that they're witches and stuff like that. And so
which makes sense for 1666. That's a sad part of our actual history, but
yes, women, if there's a potato famine, it's got to be one of the women's fault.
Yeah,
so
it's witches.
But
well, I wouldn't say a fun fact, but a fact. They didn't actually burn anybody at the stake during the Salem witch trials.
Wasn't it more the water torture?
Yeah, they killed in a lot of different ways. But they didn't actually burn anybody at the stake.
That just became an old wives' tale kind of thing, or old story.
I'm pretty sure it's happened. It just didn't happen during the Salem witch trials,
or maybe it just didn't happen as often as
you think.
Maybe it just didn't.
But no, I'm saying that the whole time period during the Salem witch trials, they didn't actually burn anybody at the stake.
Well, a little history lesson for you guys out there. But in my opinion, it was how do you want to die? Either that or we have different ways of torture. We can dismember you, but we didn't burn anybody.
We're going to throw you in this lake, and then we're going to throw a giant boulder on you. And if you drown, you're not a witch.
We killed an innocent person, but at least we'll know.
Yeah, she's not a witch. Yeah.
So that's how the town gets cursed essentially.
Yeah.
Is that Sarah Fear is accused of being a witch with the preacher's daughter, and so places a curse on the town, and
Yeah. And then the preacher goes crazy, locks all the children in the church, and takes out their eyeballs.
as you do,
Yeah, as one does on a casual Saturday.
as one does on a casual Saturday after a day of witch burning.
Yeah, just start removing eyeballs of the children, and then take out your own eyes.
Now, I forget. Did they say why he did that, or was he just crazy?
He was the first name of the curse. So as you find out, this curse is started between a deal between the devil and Solomon Good, a farmer on the outskirts of town. For prosperity, he had to give the devil one soul, and basically what happens with that one person is they go insane, they go crazy and start killing people.
Which has been happening throughout, like, the
History.
first two, yeah.
That's the overarching narrative, is all these killers are all from the same city, yeah. So, yeah, that's why I think Preacher William Brooker is the first one of the curse.
So that all happens, but we do not stay in 1666 for the entirety, because she eventually gets out of the trance.
And she realizes, oh, Nick Good is the one doing all this.
That no good Nick could.
Yeah, basically putting a curse on Shady Side to keep Sunnyvale super, super crime-free and rich. It's very much a tale of two cities right there. Like,
I was gonna say, for when you said to keep the town safe, I was like, for the greater good.
Yeah. So they hatch up a plan to kill the sheriff.
Yes.
But they didn't kill the deputy.
I was expected to laugh that hard, then I made myself giggle.
Right.
I love little corny jokes.
Yeah.
But but they didn't kill the deputy though.
Yeah. No, that was done by one of the monsters, because basically Nick Good somehow summons all of the killers from the past to come back and go after Dina because she knows.
Can't have that.
Nope. Can't have anybody messing this up, so...
So, let's go into the dramatic conclusion.
What they try to do is trap all the monsters, cover the sheriff in Dina's blood, and then release the monsters so they go after him.
Yes. You would think there would be a better... that there would have been like a thing where it would have been like, the monsters would have known better than that. But
basically what they do is they hunt based on the scent of the blood of the person they're chasing. Find that out in the first movie, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was I forgot, because they had that whole bathroom scene, which was really cool.
Yeah. So that doesn't work. Nick Good escapes. Dina chases him down. So that leaves her brother.
Good old Josh.
Josh, a guy that Josh helped, escape jail earlier in the first movie, and then Siggy Berman to fend off all the monsters now. Which they do. They come up with a pretty good plan to spray each of them with the blood, so monsters fight each other, and then eventually they run out of blood, so it becomes them just basically fighting them until Dina could get to Sheriff Nick Good and kill him, and then all the monsters disappear, and the end.
What did you think of how it all wrapped up? Do you think
that
it was
yeah.
I was about to say, do you think that it was a good ending to this trilogy of movies?
Yeah, because everything kind of tied together pretty well there at the end. So
as a whole, let's as a whole of trilogies, let's grade this as one whole thing. Let's because unless you want to go 1, 2, 3.
No.
And grade them. Do you want to just grade it as a whole?
Yeah, when I watch Fear Street, I kind of just watch it as one movie.
Because it is one whole story.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 6 hours, but it's one movie for me, basically.
Lord of the Rings is way longer.
Yeah, exactly, so...
all right, so let's go tit for tat. Starting with technicals real quick. Well, actually, we have to do kills in the movie first.
I believe I said this in our very first podcast. I don't think it's changed. But Kate getting her head mashed into the deli slicer.
I think that was both of ours, because that was my favorite too.
Yeah, because like Kate or Simon would be a close second, because that one was just a solid place for a jump scare and a sudden death.
Yeah, and And it just hits you because I didn't want to see either of them die.
Exactly. Like both deaths made me go like, oh no.
Not my girl.
I was rooting for him. Yeah.
Not my girl.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that was also a staple of the 90s. Is that these are all supposed to be high school students, but they're played by like people in their mid-20s.
Yeah.
Which was a big thing in the 90s. Yeah. Like you always had high schoolers played by like adults.
Well, yeah. I think these ones were relatively younger.
I think she was 23. I think they were like all in between like 19 and like 23.
Yeah.
I think that was so a little bit closer than a lot of ones in the 90s, but still adults.
Like in the faculty, I think one of the people at their locker in that movie is like actually balding.
You said
like
it's actually
it's like one of the extras. It's just a guy standing at the locker, but you can tell he has a giant bald spot in the back of his head.
But our main characters are age appropriate, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
very well. Yeah.
They're high schoolers, but they're like between like 18 and 23. So
yeah,
forgivable. It's not as gratuitous as like the Power Rangers or outlandish as like the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
So yeah, we both have the same one. Deli meat sliced up my homegirl. So
yeah. I mean, visually, it's pretty gnarly. Yeah.
And all right, so let's now go into technicals.
For the technicals, I mean, it's shot really well for the most part. I can't think of any scenes where I'm like, oh, that wasn't good.
I wouldn't be opposed to give it an 8.
I'm right there with you. It's an 8 out of 10.
Shot competently, shot well. Yeah. No, there were some good, a lot of the scenes were homages to other things, and nothing took me away from what was going on. Story, the overarching story, it's a good one.
It is a pretty good story. I'd give it a 7.
I'll give it a 7.5.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not 8, but I felt I needed to give it a little bit more of a bump than just a 7.
Yeah. It's a good story. It's not like
it's not
an immaculate story, but it's a good story. Yeah.
You're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. After the first one, you kind of want to know what you want to know more by the end of each one. Like at the end of 94, you want to know, all right, well, what's going on? And then at the end of 78, you're like, all right, well, what happened? What's the actual story?
Yeah.
And even if 1666 we feel is the weakest of the 3, it's still a competently told story.
Yeah, because only the first half is basically shot in the period times. So
yeah, and that's just a personal preference anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So enjoyment, I'd probably give it an 8. I feel like I could rewatch this movie at any time. I have a pretty good time. I
can give it an 8 too. I said it before because this is an R.L. Stine property.
Yeah.
That if this was made, if Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was made like this, it would have been perfect. Like if they had the team from this one make Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Like in no way did I ever think that if I were comparing like the Goosebumps movie and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark that I would side with Goosebumps.
Well, this is Fear Street, not Goosebumps.
Oh, I know.
Goosebumps is made more for kids. While when he wrote Fear Street, was more for the young adults. Yeah.
I know, that was just a side point.
Yeah.
That was just a side point that I never thought I would like say that because I read more Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but I think that if maybe Scary Stories had a R rating, it would have been cooler. But that was just a whole nother tangent, though.
Yeah.
So that was 8, 7.5 for me, I think.
Yeah, 8, 7 for me. So 23 for me, and then 23.5 for you. So
yeah, solid movie.
High up there, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, it's one of those where I could just pop it on. Like, in fact, like especially on a day like this where it's my day off, it's like cloudy out, and it's like, yeah, just
got much going on. Put it on, yeah.
Yeah, pop it on while I do some stuff around the house.
Exactly.
So this is
my question for you is: if they made another Fear Street movie, I think they'd have to make it a completely different story, unrelated to the first 3.
Well, I don't know much about Fear Street, so was that a series of stories?
It was like Goosebumps, but
for adults.
Yeah, targeted for like young adult teenagers, young adults. So
yes, I think that if they were to make another one, it should be like, let's pretend like this doesn't even exist and let it be its own separate story.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like it should be its own thing.
And I think that they shouldn't even do the novelty of the different time periods. Just we had this gimmick when we had this fun stuff with Fear Street. Let's just try something completely different with a new Fear Street.
Yeah, I think that's a cool concept, doing an anthology through trilogies.
Yes.
Tell one story through 3 movies, and then a completely different story through another 3 movies.
Yeah, and even when they did like 1666, I liked that they kept the same cast.
Yeah.
That was very American Horror Story, which they bring back the same cast but for different kind of things, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to. I wouldn't even be opposed to them bringing back some of the other cast members, but just play different people.
If they brought back the same cast, I'd be happy with it.
But just have them completely like different than what they were playing in this.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah.
Let's have Simon and Sam and everybody like as the antagonists in the next one. For all I care,
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if they do what they would do.
I hope they do come out with another one. I think it deserves to keep going as a franchise. So.
And it's very much liked by the horror community. So
yeah.
I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about it. So this was our first in our re-reviews, which we're just taking a couple from. We're not going to do every single movie from season 1, but
a couple.
So you want to? Yeah.
For the next one, I was thinking we could either do one we really enjoy or one we really hate. We could do Leslie Vernon, or we could do Venom.
I say we sandwich it. Since we did one we really liked, let's do Venom and then Leslie Vernon.
Okay, yeah.
Because Venom was also one that I have been meaning to go back because it's become infamous in our talks of how bad it was, but enough time has passed that I'm like, was it really that bad?
Not as bad as I thought. I'm gonna have to go rewatch it. Yeah,
and I'm gonna watch it and go like, nope, it was that bad. It was exactly as bad as I remember it. But at least that was free on YouTube, right?
I mean, it was 2 years ago, so I'm guessing it's still there.
Wouldn't that blow? It was like you have to pay $3.99 to watch.
Instead of renting it on Amazon. God.
But that will be our next one, and then we can follow it up with, our beloved Leslie Vernon, which we can't speak highly enough of.
One of my top 5 all-time favorite movies. So
that's how you do a mockumentary, Chris, not this Lake Mungo movie. But in the meantime, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to like us jointly hating on a movie that we've both heavily criticized.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, that's treats for later. And in the meantime, thank you everybody for sticking with us. And I have been Chris Thomas, and with me as always, Broke Writer Dave.
Have a good week, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Body Bag Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave us a comment as to what you'd like to hear us review, or any horror movie topics you'd like to hear us rant and rave about.
And while you're at it, you can find us on Twitter at BodyBagPod and on Instagram at BodyBagPodcast.
Thanks, and we'll see you next time.